Well, every time there's a good episode of Raw, you can bet everything you own that the next thing that you're going to see from the WWE will be complete ass. Likewise, if there's a good episode of SmackDown, you can bet your ass that Raw is going to suck. Today is no different. Cucksters, all right? Let's get to it and let's review it. And let's review it how we do it. And around here, we do it segment by segment. All right. The first episode of SmackDown that I actually thought maybe it's time for the people to get a little bit excited. I should have known better because Raw was pretty good. So I figured all they have to do is at the very least follow up conclusively and correctly to put us in the situation where we needed to be. To be fair, I thought for a second that this was the last episode of SmackDown before the pay-per-view, so I understand they might do that next week. Nevertheless, it doesn't change the fact that this was a garbage episode. So the show starts, and they show the jobbers coming in as usual, right? One of the things to look forward to today is a Raw match on SmackDown involving Jobber Balor versus Jobber Penta. And as this is happening, we're seeing these people, and Michael Cole is explaining to us who's coming in. We also have to, of course, tolerate 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's fucking retarded. Please change this horseshit theme. This is one of the worst themes of all time. This is literally one of the worst songs ever created by human beings. Whoever the broad is that sings this should fucking look at herself in the mirror and just conclude she should never make music ever again for putting us through this garbage. Anyways, after this, we move on to a segment that shows us everything that happened last week, which we saw last week, or rather on Raw, so who the hell cares, right? We already know everything that's gonna happen. Then, even though he just showed us what happened, Heyman comes out with the Vision, meaning, of course, Braun, Bronson, and Logan Paul. And he does what he usually does. He says, I'm Paul Heyman, and then he starts telling us that Logan Paul is Logan Paul. Yeah, we already know, cocksucker. You know what I'm saying? What are you doing here? Why are they even here? So he just says, oh, Logan Paul is the Maverick. And then the Usos come out, right? The Usos do their shit. They're like, yeah, Us, we're going to show you, that kind of stuff that you're used to seeing the Usos. Nothing crazy here. Just straight up Uso shit. You know what I mean? The Usos are just like, yeah, we're going to fight. We're going to beat you up. Nothing really interesting, right? Paul Heyman says, you're outnumbered, cucks. And then Jimmy says, we didn't come alone. So at this point, the fans are chanting OTC, and you're expecting Roman Reigns, but instead what happens is the Cuckster's music hits, right? Cucky Rhodes' music hits, but no Cucky Rhodes comes out. Then we go to the back where we see his bus, which has like the Wheatley stuff all over it. Wheatley, so good at drinking neatly. I will say that's a hell of a jingle, motherfucks. But anyways, then the bus door opens and we see a new version of Drew McIntyre coming out, right? This new version has laid out Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes is hanging like on the, the little steps on the bus, right? He's like hanging all there like a fucking dead body. He looks like a retard, you know what I mean? At the end of the day, this is your WWE champion. Have some respect and have him be presentable to some degree, right? However, as we would find out later, none of this would matter, right? In the meantime, the Usos leave the stage and go back to check on Cucky. That's the end of the first segment. A complete waste of time. Why are they even there? Why is Paul Heyman out there talking about how Logan Paul is Logan Paul? Of note, there's a part where basically the Usos say something, and Paul Heyman says, now you've upset Logan Paul, right? And then the Usos do this thing. I fucking hate this. They do this thing, they're like, oh, we're scared. And it's like, look, you can say this because it's fake wrestling, right? But in the real world, Logan Paul would knock out both of the Usos in 5 seconds. You know what I'm saying? So this is the one thing that I think I hate the most about wrestling is that it's a place where people that can actually fight sometimes end up, and it's a place where pussies who can't do anything also end up, right? You can say what you want about Logan Paul, but he's not a fucking pussy, you know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying maybe the Usos are tough guys too, but I just don't see it, I don't buy into it, right? So it's like CM Punk is the biggest example of this. Like CM Punk comes out and he can like talk shit, right? He can talk shit to someone like Mark Henry, and then because he knows that this is a fake fight. Because in a real fight, Mark Henry would literally turn this guy in two. You know what I mean? So he can talk shit. And that's fine, I get it. Wrestling is a performance, it's a show. I'm not hating on it, right? But the idea is it has to be somewhat realistic. Think about it this way, right? If, I don't know, Rey Mysterio is going to wrestle Dolph Ziggler, right? Rey Mysterio, even though he is a multiple-time world champion, will always be presented as the underdog because in the real world, Dolph Ziggler would tear this guy apart in 3 seconds, right? Simple as that. You know, like Dolph Ziggler is never put down by Rey Mysterio because everybody knows that if Rey Mysterio is going to win, it needs to be presented as a fluke, right? Nobody should be standing up to someone like Brock Lesnar, right? Like, seriously. Unless it's like Kurt Angle maybe, or Big Show, or Lashley, or someone of that level. You know what I mean? Now, I'm not saying every other person should be terrified of Brock Lesnar, but it just goes to follow that if Brock Lesnar is there, nobody should be overly confident with Brock Lesnar. Just like nobody would be overly confident with him in the real world unless they are his equal. And there are no equals to Brock Lesnar, maybe in the world, but certainly not in the WWE. You know what I mean? So that being said, I didn't particularly like that. Heyman, then that's basically the only reason for him being here until later on. And later on, the reason that he was there is shown to be a complete disaster, but we'll deal with that later, motherfucks. So after this, Ilya Dragunov comes out, and it's time for the Ilya Dragunov US Open Challenge. Now, if you didn't need any more evidence like me to show that the US title is now the jobber title, it is the lowest level title in this company at the moment, you know what I mean? Especially considering that Cena holds the other mid-card title, right? Then this match will convince even the most unconvincible person. Because the person that challenges Ilya Dragunov is, that's right, JD McDonough, one of the biggest jobbers in the history of wrestling. He comes out and they have like a 30-minute match. Now, was the match good? First of all, who gives a flying fuck? JD's not going to become the US champion. But the match was decent, right? Because Ilya Dragunov does do good moves sometimes. He also does a lot of really retarded moves. And JD McDonough, he's got some qualities that make him decent in the ring. But personally, I didn't enjoy it because I don't give a fuck about this. I know exactly what's going to happen, so I have no reason to watch this at all. Anyways, some of the highlights of the match were this dumbass suplex spot where one of them, I forget which one started it, they do a vertical suplex, the guy's back, like upper back, bounces on the top rope, and then he lands on the apron, kinda, drags the other guy, they all tumble to the outside. It was this weird suplex, we've seen it before, it's one of the dumbest spots of all time. It looks like a mistake every time. It probably was a mistake, but even if it weren't, I know sometimes they've done this spot on purpose, it's just like a really dumb spot, right? It's just like, you know when Rey Mysterio is being like lifted up, and someone tries to throw him out of the ring, Mysterio always just grabs the ropes and just like Hurricane Ranas or flips the other guy over one way or another. It's like that. It's like overdone and it's really dumb. That was one of the highlights though because it was so stupid. There was a part where Dragunov does the Constantine special, or tries to at least, and he gets countered into a Spanish fly. That's one of the worst names for a move of all time. Constantine Special. Spanish Fly ain't much better, but Constantine Special is just, we get it, bro. You're a Soviet. We get it. Fuck, you just get a personality, you cuck. Anyways, after this, Dragunov kicks JD in the face as well, and then eventually JD does a Buzaiku, right? Knee, kind of like a counter to the Torpedo Moscow. And then he does a moonsault, but only for 2. The moonsault was excellent. I will say this, but it wasn't anything special because at the end of the day, it's just JD McDonough doing it, and he's like 115 pounds. But considering that we are forced to watch shitty moonsaults on a weekly basis, including moonsaults from Io Sky, who misses it all the time, fucking Stephanie Fakir, her corkscrew moonsault, she misses it like I think she's missed it every single time she's done it. Charlotte Flair, she has like a decent but kind of boring moonsault. Bianca Belair's handspring moonsault. You see where I'm going with this, motherfucks? A lot of women do the moonsault. And Tiffany Stratton's finisher, the prettiest moonsault ever, which is one of the worst moonsaults, aesthetically speaking, right? She just does it with no confidence and doesn't look good. And then, of course, I can't talk about moonsaults without talking about the man that ruined it himself, Jacob Fatu. JD McDonough has a better moonsault than everyone that I just mentioned combined. But anyways, it's obviously not enough because it's fucking JD McDonough. After this, JD does a headbutt. You know, he does like that headbutt thing that he does, kind of like the Drew McIntyre Glasgow kiss, like just a standing headbutt. But Ilya Dragunov gets hit by it and falls backwards onto the ropes and then kind of like, not catapults, but he pushes himself off the ropes and does like a short-range Torpedo Moscow, right? That's how it went down, cucks, believe it or not. The Torpedo Moscow is, of course, enough to put JD down, kind of, right? Ilya picks him up, power bombs him, and then since he's laying by JD's legs, he just charges up and does the H-bomb and pins him. So effectively what we saw here is both of these guys did headbutts, but because Ilya's headbutt is called the Torpedo Moscow, because it has a dumbass name, his is just better, right? So JD headbutts Ilya, nothing happens. Ilya headbutts JD, does his finisher, and wins. We could have saved the entire match and just had this headbutt spot because it ruined everything. So anyways, that's that, motherfucks. After this, Alexa is talking to Charlotte, and she's trying to get her to talk to Rhea. So she takes her to the room and kind of drops her off. And Charlotte's like, what? I don't want to do this. Charlotte looks great. And this got me thinking, because Charlotte goes to talk to Rhea. Now, I know a lot of people don't like Charlotte and historically haven't, but in my opinion, like Charlotte clearly tries to look good, which I do appreciate because it means she cares about the presentation, right? And I'm not saying Rhea Ripley's a fucking pig or anything like that. She's obviously a good-looking girl, generally speaking, but she tries not to look good, right? And that's the difference. And I think that's why people like her, to be completely honest. People don't want good-looking women around, right? Charlotte Flair reminds them of the blonde cheerleader that told them absolutely not, right, to any kind of thing they ever spoke about. The neckbeard I'm talking about here. And Rhea Ripley also probably told him to fuck off, but she was the girl that was into anime and like 9-inch nails and shit. So they always thought they had a better shot with her because a significant subset of men and boys in high school would never go for someone like Rhea Ripley, right? So these weird submissive types that end up liking My Little Pony and watching anime and jacking off to hentai, then all of a sudden they're like, oh, mommy, oh, I want you to shit right in my mouth. I think I'd love that. This is the kind of people we're dealing with here, motherfuckers. So anyways, they're going to talk, but that's not going to happen now because nothing in this fucking show happens when it's supposed to. It happens whenever the fuck they want it to happen. So anyways, we move on. Backstage, Heyman is talking to Aldis. Aldis is mad that absolutely not one person in his company gives a flying fuck about the rules that he makes. Primarily, he's upset that he, for better or for worse, decided to suspend Drew McIntyre, but Drew doesn't give a fuck, and he's there beating up the champion, right? Now, Paul Heyman says, hey, this didn't happen in the arena. This happened outside the arena, right? This has nothing to do with me. I'm here to support Bronson Reed in his match. And Aldis also says, yeah, if it weren't for Bronson Reed needing to be here for the last time is now tournament, I wouldn't have anybody here. How about just say Bronson Reed, he's the one that has the match. Why is Heyman there? You know, okay, he's the manager, fine. Why is Logan Paul there? He's a Raw guy. Why is Braun Breaker there? He's a Raw guy. You can't just bring your friends to shit, you know what I'm saying? You can't like LeBron, when he's playing for the Lakers, he can't be like, oh, my friend is going to be in the sidelines cheering me on. Oh, my friend is going to be on the bench. That's not how this works, motherfuckers. But anyways, it is what it is. Basically, nothing comes of this. Paul Heyman says, yeah, you know, like, I respect you. I don't want us to get off on the wrong foot, but, you know, this is how it's going to be. So that's the end of that, right? Paul Heyman takes an opportunity here to say that Bronson Reed is going to destroy Carmelo Hayes. And that's honestly exactly what happened. But we're going to talk about that in a second. So basically, after this, it's time for the match, right? Like, but before the match, we obviously have to have the obligatory Ilya Dragunov is walking backstage. Tama Tonga appears and makes a noise. I don't know what he said, to be honest. I think he said, like, it's coming or it's happening or some bullshit like that and walks away. Basically just reminding him that he's, you know, in line. That's fine. I got no problem with that. It took literally 5 seconds. And, you know, it's a nice reminder that he's going to be next. Then Tommaso Ciampa comes up and says, like, if I didn't have this tag team match tonight, it'd be me there. And then Ilya just calls him a jackass. We get it, right? Nothing really crazy here, but that's what happened. The match starts, Bronson Reed versus Carmelo Hayes. Bronson Reed is beating Carmelo's ass. He's just destroying him, right? He hits the world's strongest slam, which should be a finisher, but I guess it's fine if it's not because the implications are that when Mark Henry does it, it's literally the world's strongest man doing it to you. So, you know, it's almost like if Bronson Reed does it, there's no way he should get a 3 count, right? Like, he's not the world's strongest man. So anyways, he does it, and he does a senton, and goes for the tsunami. Melo gets out of the way. Melo hits the first 48, and then knocks the impact of it, knocks Bronson Reed out of the ring. Melo then does a dive, and kind of hits Braun Breaker as well. Kinda. Like, not really, but kinda, right? Then he throws Bronson in the ring, and does a diving DDT. Shades of Prince Iaukea, for those of you that remember Prince Iaukea, or the artist formerly known as Prince Iaukea. Obviously, the move that Carmelo does is not as good as Prince Iaukea move because, quite frankly, if we're being realistic, Carmelo Hayes is not as good as Prince Iaukea. But nevertheless, that happened. It's still a good move. Bronson kicks out. In my opinion, this should be Carmelo's finishing move. You know, it's a much better move. It looks better, and you can hit it more reliably. The nothing but net just looks like shit 95% of the time. You know, because the guy taking it has to sell it well. and people can't really sell that well when it's a move like that. But anyways, irrespective of all of this, Bronson kicks out. Melo then goes up again, presumably to do the nothing but net, but he just kind of dives in like a double axe handle fashion and misses. And Reed clotheslines the shit out of him. Melo rolls out of the ring. Logan then distracts the ref on the apron, right? Braun Breaker takes off his shirt and he's getting ready to do like the outside spear where he just like runs like at least half circle around the ring and spears the motherfucker. So he goes for this, but as he's about to go towards Melo, all of a sudden, Jey Uso appears and kicks him and starts beating on him. Jimmy Uso appears and the Usos start beating up Braun Breaker and fucking Logan Paul. They kind of neutralize them. They all leave the arena. But the match is still going on, as Michael Cole reminds us, right? Basically, at this point, this is where the match becomes, like, preposterously retarded. Paul Heyman gets, for some reason, on the apron, right? And continues to distract the ref. There is no reason to do this whatsoever. That was really stupid, right? Like, your guys are gone, but so are the Usos. There is no need for you to distract the referee because your guy is not doing anything where the referee needs to be distracted. But because Heyman is a shit manager in kayfabe and in real life, he distracts the referee. The Cuckster comes out and grabs fat-ass Bronson Reed, hits the crossroads on the outside. He grabs Carmelo Hayes and throws him into the ring, motherfuckers. Carmelo Hayes is not even given the dignity to get in the ring by himself. And then the referee counts. Now you're thinking to yourself, I bet, hey, hater, it's only one crossroads. Surely Bronson Reed was able to get up in 10 seconds, right? And beat the count for the crossroads. Well, I got news for you, pal. That didn't fucking happen, right? Bronson Reed is such a massive jobber that even one crossroads keeps this motherfucker down, right? Other people need like 3 of them to get pinned. This guy takes one and he's out not only for the 10 seconds, but he was out for the foreseeable future because what happened after this is the referee counted to 10, right? Now here's where things got even more dumb and even more entertaining for me, if I'm being honest. Carmelo Hayes is all proud. He like points to like where his watch would be, I guess to signify that it's time or it's my time or something, right? This is a really weird celebration considering that literally every person in the world could have won their match like if they were Carmelo Hayes, because he didn't do anything. Cody Rhodes took out his opponent and threw Carmelo into the ring. Carmelo could have been anybody. Like Funaki could have won the match like this, right? But Carmelo Hayes is oddly proud of this bullshit achievement, right? In my opinion, I mean, I'm not blaming Carmelo, like the guy that plays Carmelo. He's just doing his job, you know what I mean? I'm sure when he goes backstage, he probably thinks, wow, that's like retarded booking. But the character looks stupid, right? Meanwhile, to make matters even worse, in my personal opinion, basically, what's his face? Corey Graves says this is one of the biggest upsets ever, right? You would think that Carmelo Hayes just beat Hulk Hogan. Carmelo Hayes was the NXT champion while Bronson Reed was an NXT mid-carder who eventually got fired. Are you kidding me? This is not an upset at all, right? But the fact is, because Bronson Reed pinned Roman Reigns, now they pretend that Bronson Reed's a big deal. Meanwhile, Michael Cole makes things even worse by saying that this is one of the biggest wins of Melo's career. So think about that. Let's just say it was, right? It obviously isn't. But let's just say this is the biggest win of Carmelo Hayes' career. This is the worst kind of win to get. This is not a real win, right? Nevertheless, Carmelo advances, you know? I don't think he's going to be fighting Cena. In my opinion, it's the bad decision because I think Bronson Reed would have been an appropriate opponent for Cena, but now that's not happening, right? Somewhere down the line, they need to talk about the implications of this, right? Because it should be a massive honor to fight Cena. So, for example, the fact that Bronson Reed got screwed is not something he should take lightly, motherfucks. I mean, he won't. He won't take it lightly, you know, because he's going to be wrestling Cody Rhodes at War Games, but like, whatever, you know what I mean? This should be like something that he hunts Cody down for months to come. But anyways, I digress. Considering that Cody Rhodes hadn't done anything tonight, aside from the aforementioned crossroads and getting his ass whooped by the new version of Drew McIntyre, Cody Rhodes gets up on the announce table, gets a mic. Meanwhile, like as this is happening, Carmelo Hayes' music is playing to signify that he won. It plays for about 3 seconds. Cody Rhodes starts talking, so of course they cut the Jobber's music, they cut Melo's music, because nobody gives a fuck about Carmelo Hayes, right? Honestly, I know that I say that Carmelo Hayes is effectively a jobber, and I do believe that. I'm not going to sit here and go back on my opinion, right? I have my worldview, and I'm sticking to it. But even he deserves better than this. This is unacceptable, motherfuckers. Like, this is so disrespectful. He's basically a prop. Like, the least important person in this entire presentation was Carmelo Hayes. Like, Michael Cole and Corey Graves were more important to this segment than Carmelo Hayes. Carmelo Hayes might as well just be fired, right? Just get rid of him, man. Let him go to AEW and get some money, you know? This guy is never going to be a WWE star in any capacity. Anyways, and even if he gets like a small push, even if he beats Cena, like they're going to job him out in a few years anyways. So it is what it is. But basically, I didn't like the way that they disrespected my boy Melo in this match, right? Cody Rhodes gets the mic, and he cuts a Cody Rhodes promo, which means he starts talking bullshit. He says in the promo a bunch of shit, including that historically, a Steiner is never better than a Rhodes. Like, we know that deep inside, Cody knows this is not true, because the fact of the matter is that every Steiner is better than every Rhodes. You could make an argument that Goldust might be better than Rick Steiner. I know a lot of people are going to be upset because Rick Steiner has a lot of fans, but quite frankly, I was more of a Scott Steiner guy, and I'm a Braun Breaker guy, right? Every Steiner is better than every Rhodes. Like, in wrestling, and every Steiner would beat up every Rhodes in about 5 seconds, right? Now, I know that I say this a lot, and people are like, what does it matter who'd win a fight? It does matter for the reason that I said earlier when I mentioned the Usos, motherfuckers. Like, Cody Rhodes only can talk this way because you can just tell that the Steiners are real ones. You know what I mean? That they're not a family to be fucked with. You know what I mean? You've heard the stories, the backstage stories. They're not people to be fucked with. And if someone spoke to them out of line like this, they would get handled real quick, right? And Cody Rhodes can only do this because, like, he's Cody Rhodes. He's the champion, right? There was, I'm sure a lot of people don't remember, or probably people didn't know, but there was a thing where, like, Daniel Cormier, the UFC legend, he said something along the lines of, like, man, like, wrestling now, he basically had a hater take. He's like, wrestling nowadays is, like, kind of fake and it's kind of bullshit, right? And Daniel Cormier is a massive fan. And Cody Rhodes went on Twitter and he started talking to him like Daniel Cormier is the new version of Drew McIntyre. He was like, you don't know what you're talking about. Da-da-da-da-da. Like, he was being, like, passive-aggressive, but also aggressive on Twitter. And Daniel Cormier was a really nice guy, it seems. He wrote back. He was like, whoa, watch yourself there, you know? And he said something along the lines of, I'm not part of this show, bro. You know what I mean? I don't play around like this, you know? Like, watch what you say about me, because I'm a real one, right? I'm a real fighter. I'll beat the shit out of you and everyone in AEW. He didn't go that far, but those were the underpinnings, right? Basically, he was saying, Cody Rhodes, recognize, know your place. You know what I mean? You can talk like this to people like Brock Lesnar because you know that Brock Lesnar is in on the joke. You know that he's not going to tear you in half like he easily could, right? But I'm not in on the joke, motherfucker. That's what Cormier was saying. I'm not in on it, so show me some respect, you know? I'm not here to play your kayfabe games. I was making a point as a fan, and you came at me in character. You think I'm a little child? He didn't say all this, but you know those were the underpinnings. Daniel Cormier was like, I'll just fucking tear this guy in half. You know what I mean? In 3 seconds, that'll be the end of that. So Cody Rhodes getting away with this kind of shit, like he's not a tough guy. You know what I mean? He's not a tough guy. Like, you know, can he beat up an Uso? Sure. Can he beat up a Jacob Fatu? Sure. They're fat asses. But he's not going to beat up a Daniel Cormier, who, to be fair, is also fat, but he's Daniel Cormier, and he's not beating up any of the Steiners, you know? So take it, motherfucks. After this, Cody then just says basically like, you know, my team's going to win, right? Good for him. You know, what is he going to say? My team's going to lose? So nothing happened here. He also says that he's not done with Drew McIntyre, which, you know, was to be expected, for better or for worse. But it wasn't just that, right? It wasn't just that. The fact that he's not done with Drew McIntyre is completely irrelevant. God knows what this new version of Drew McIntyre did to Cody Rhodes on that bus. I don't even want to know. But apparently, it had absolutely no effect on him and no bearing on anything because he came in and did exactly what he wanted to do, and that is manhandle a man 3 times his size. Speaking of fat boy Bronson Reed is still trying to get up from the crossroads, right? Like, this is how much of a jobber this guy is. And I'm supposed to look forward to this asshole in a cage? You know, whatever. It is what it is. At the very least, he has cage match experience because he was in last year's War Games. So it's like, all right, fine. You know, you can, like, kind of make something out of this, perhaps, right? You can kind of take Bronson Reed and, like, you know, have him do the same shit he did last year and not get hurt. He kind of understands the match. So it's good from that perspective. But basically, it's another episode of SmackDown where Cody Rhodes comes out on top, even though he started, like, the day off getting his ass whooped in a bus. Then we get a vignette Sami Zayn leading the jobbers. They're basically completely like irrelevant, all of them, right? They're united, Sami Zayn says. They're also international and basically, supposedly, they're good, even though their resumes don't say so in WWE. So basically, the Cuckster says the Motor City Machine Guns are from the United States and they've been around the Indies. You know, like the fucking same shit that everyone says about these guys. Oh, you don't know who they are? Oh, they're 40? You've never heard of them? Ah, that's because they were in the Indies. You know, now, I'm a big fan, don't get me wrong, but I'm talking about the presentation of this team, right? And then after that, Alex Shelley says, we've known this man for a long time. Like, we get it, bro. You were all jobbers at one point, and guess what? You're jobbers today, too. Sure, Sami Zayn might win the Royal Rumble. I hope not. But it doesn't change the fact that he will always be a jobber, right? Then Sami Zayn says, Nakamura, you've awoken the king of strong style, Nakamura. And Nakamura says, MFT! Something along those lines. Nobody fucking understood what he was saying. Then, to make matters even worse, Sami Zayn says, and Rey Fenix, one of the best luchadors in the world, right? And he's like, Orale, Rey Fenix, say something. And then Rey Fenix is like, nobody understands what the fuck this guy's saying either, man. This is just a team of people that don't speak English, which is why their careers are going the way they're going, right? I'm sick of this shit. Learn fucking English. Rey Fenix, I was about to give him a pass because he just signed recently, but he's been in AEW for like 5 years. Fucking learn English, motherfucks. Nakamura's been here 10 years. Inexcusable. If I lived in Japan for 10 years, I'd be a fucking poet in the Japanese language. I'd be a fucking calligraphy artist, motherfucks. I'd probably do it without a brush. I'd use my balls instead, but you understand what I'm getting at here, right? So, they say they're gonna win. And I thought this match was this week for some reason, but Sami Zayn reminds me that it's apparently next week. So at this point, I couldn't give a fuck about the rest of this. And quite frankly, it's not like I give a shit about this team or the MFTs. I only care about the fact that like Survivor Series matches are something that I find entertaining, right? That's how that went down. Fraxium versus DIY is next for the 1700th time. Nobody cares about either of these teams. Fraxium, like last year, was one of the quote-unquote best tag teams on the planet. They're out there wrestling like the Hardy Boys. You know what I mean? What the fuck are you talking about? They're out there wrestling the Hardy Boys. Now they can't beat DIY. It's exactly what happens up in this bitch. You know what I mean? Nothing good. I'll tell you that. The match is repetitive. It's a DIY match. It's exactly what you'd expect, right? Basically, the match ends. You couldn't think of a worse way, right? You couldn't. Nathan Frazier does a tope. Ciampa fails to catch him, so he smacks his back on the ground, but he kind of kicks Ciampa, so Ciampa and Frazier are out. Meanwhile, Axiom, sorry, I mean, you can't keep up with this shit either, motherfuckers. So Axiom is getting ready for the finishing move, the most electrifying move in sports entertainment, the golden ratio, which is literally a running kick. It's just a running kick. It doesn't even have any theatrics, right? So anyways, this like problem with running kick finishers needs to go away, motherfucks. Like, it started with Drew McIntyre and the Claymore. It's a recent phenomenon, honestly, right? Then it's like Swerve Strickland has the house call. At the very least, the house call looks kind of cool, right? You expect it and it just looks interesting, right? Then you got the worst one by far, of course, is the golden ratio. So he's getting ready for the golden ratio, which means he's in the corner setting it up, right? And then Candice LeRae hops on the apron, and here's where it gets dumb, motherfucks. This is really, really stupid in my opinion. Basically, Candice just grabs his head. She grabs the mask and unmasks him. First of all, if your mask is loose for any reason, just tie that sumbitch up. Number one. Number two, as far as I know, Axiom is from Spain, right? He is not from Mexico. But despite this, Axiom gets easily pinned. You know what I mean? He gets easily pinned by Gargano because he's been unmasked. Nathan Frazier then gets a towel and puts it over Axiom's face. Now, let me quickly analyze how retarded this is. Number one, he is not a luchador. He's just a European who wears a mask, right? Good for him. I'm not saying don't, but you're just an asshole with a mask, right? This is not appropriate. It's not appropriate for him to pretend that he's been defaced like a Mexican luchador has been defaced, right? Number one. Number two, because Mexican luchadors are presented as superheroes, right? You don't want to see that the person is a person, right? Like, of course you know that they are a person, right? But you don't want to see him as a normal person. Like, if anyone's watched the movie 8mm starring Nicolas Cage, you know what I'm talking about. If anyone got that reference and understood the theme and the impact of the reference, leave a comment, cucks. But anyways, even if you are a luchador, and someone takes off your mask, if this is an important match, you should prioritize the match. Simple as that, motherfuckers. Simple as that. It's just like in football where someone's doing a play and their helmet gets knocked loose. They continue playing, right? And that's a safety issue and they still do it. But anyways, that's how they lose. After this, motherfuckers, we go to a weird cinematic talk between Rhea and Charlotte. Why does it have to be cinematic? I don't know. I don't care. They agree. They come to terms. They shake hands, right? After this, it's time for the second of the two qualifying matches. It's Penta versus Finn Balor. Penta beats Finn Balor with a destroyer. Finn Balor's career was completely done. People think that Finn Balor was supposed to be this like big deal. I personally always thought he was a jobber, but at the very least, I would figure that he wouldn't be jobbing to these kinds of jobbers like Penta. You know what I mean? Carmelo Hayes is headed for the same exact thing, minus the world title run. After this, motherfucks, Michael Cole tells us that Sheamus is out and LA Knight doesn't have an opponent. Sheamus will be replaced, and it's once again question mark, question mark, question mark. I don't know what's gonna happen here. I don't know if someone's getting a second chance. I don't know. Maybe it's going to be Edge. You never know. Some people were like, why do you think it's going to be Edge? Like, he's in contract with AEW. So what? You can work around it. You can just pay AEW money and they'll let him do it. Simple as that. Honestly, if Edge said I want to do it, Tony Khan would be like, oh, here you go. You want my asshole too? And then he would just let Edge do it. So fuck off. But anyways, that's not here or there. The point is, there's going to be a new guy. Solo Sikoa then cuts a promo about Penta winning. I don't know why he mentions this, other than to segue into his promo, which was obviously pre-taped. And then he says that basically he's going to beat Team Sami Zayn, right? This is the analog of Sami Zayn's promo, just from the perspective of the MFTs. Nobody cares at all. After this, it's time for the main event, which I couldn't believe that the crowd was still there. Like, if I was watching this shit, I would have left, motherfuckers. I mean, I guess I'd watch Penta versus Finn Balor if I paid money, because that's what I paid money for. But I am not going to sit in my seat and watch, like, fucking Asuka come out. You know, just like I didn't wait for Ronda Rousey when I was at the Royal Rumble, I just left. You know what I mean? After Asuka won, I would do the same thing. But for some reason, the fans stayed. The good women come out like they're part of a Hall of Fame class. They come out one by one with theme songs. It's weird. I don't know why a promo is required for all this, but basically, like, they get in the ring and they say, our fifth person is AJ Lee. Like, we already knew this, motherfucks. We figured this out. Last Monday, I said I was wrong, clearly. Last Monday, I said that, like, I understand why they want to extend this for one more, right? But I didn't know it was going to be like this, right? Because it was pretty self-evident. Anyways, even though it was self-evident, I guess the logic is that it has to happen, right? So, like, I knew, and you knew, and everyone with a brain cell knew that it was going to be AJ Lee. And then, of course, that obviously means that Becky Lynch is on the other side. But you got to consider, some people don't have brain cells. Most of the B fans are retarded. So you got to watch out for them too. So anyways, AJ Lee comes out and she misses her cue. She comes out because, you know, you hear like, let's light it up, light it up, light it up, light it tonight. And as this is happening, the heels just blast the faces from behind. They just appear out of nowhere. They just attack the faces. AJ Lee is like skipping. She's like missing her beat. Maybe she was waiting for Becky Lynch to get ready for the spot. I don't know what it was, but it looked stupid because basically AJ Lee was just coming out to her song and the women in the ring were getting their asses beat. So AJ Lee just runs to the ring. Michael Cole or Corey Graves, I don't remember which one, says, what's she gonna do? It's 5-on-1. Who cares, right? So basically, she runs to the ring, but as she's running to the ring, Becky Lynch just appears from the side and just pounces this bitch, right? Then the heels beat up the faces. The faces have some fight left in them, but ultimately they get their asses beat because of the jumping advantage. And then Becky Lynch also helps hold Rhea's leg as Nia Jax splashes her in the corner and hits her with the Annihilator, aka the ass. Then after Nia hits it, she kind of just rides her a little bit, which I thought was pretty funny, you know? It's almost like a Bronco Buster. It's like, why not? She was like riding her. But anyways, with that being said, the heels are then in the ring and Becky Lynch shakes hands with Asuka. Kairi Sane, high fives, Lash Legend, and this is the team, right? That's all that happened. Quite frankly, I don't think there should be this much animosity between these two teams because most of them are not really angry at each other, right? So, like, obviously Alexa and Charlotte are mad at the Kabuki Warriors. That's basically it, right? It's like, why is Lash Legend so pissed off at everybody? You know what I mean? Why is Nia Jax so pissed off at everybody? You know? So it is what it is. There should be some animosity, but quite frankly, I'm not compelled by this match whatsoever. So that's been your SmackDown review. I completely forgot about retro review, so expect that tomorrow probably, or I might just do 2 next week or something. I don't know. We'll see. But the point is, this episode of SmackDown, we're back to 1 out of 10, right? And quite frankly, it really should be a 0 out of 10. Honestly, it's a 0 out of 10. Fuck that shit. 0 out of 10 up in this bitch. There was nothing here that was enjoyable. Everything was routine. And quite frankly, the only thing to look forward to is this Survivor Series match, only because it's a Survivor Series match. Otherwise, I couldn't give a fuck. If the MFTs don't win this, then like they fucking suck bells. So that being said, take care of yourself, cucks, and each other up in this bitch.